Assalamualaikum to Madam and all my friends. I'm Nur Amizah Akilah binti Yaakob with match number 8182789. I will present about the case study 1. Based on the article case study 1, I conclude that Malaysia's gross domestic product grew 3.1% in 2021 after recording 3.6% year-on-year growth in the fourth quarter, keeping Southeast Asia's economy on the path to recovery after the COVID-19 crisis left thousands unemployed and forced businesses to close shop. The economy gained 0.5% in the first quarter of 2021, jumped 16.1% in the second quarter, and contracted 4.5% in the third quarter, and 3.3% growth for the fourth quarter.
Okay. The graph of Malaysia's GDP reveals that during 2018 and 2019, it dropped practically to zero, and between 2020 and 2021, it dropped to a negative figure before rising once more. The percentage rate fluctuated from year to year because of numerous factors that have an impact on it. Services earn the highest percentage of all productions items, which is 50, 57.5%, while constructions receive the lowest percentage, 3.5, 3.4 percent. The Malaysia's economic situation in the fourth quarter of 2021 is depicted in Figure 1. The Malaysia's economy is transitioning from a trough to a peak at this time and is going through expansion phase. Following a negative 4.5% growth rate in the third quarter of 2021, Malaysia's economy recovered in the fourth quarter by 3.6%. The expansion phase, which followed a protected period of economic contractions, is also known as the economic recovery phase. The unemployment rate attained its normal level during this time. The manufacturing sector expanded strongly by 9.1% from 8.3% in the third quarter. The service sector increased by 3.2% from negative 4.9% in the third quarter. And the agricultural sector experienced the turnaround of 2.8% from negative 1.9%, were the main drivers of the economic supply side performance in the fourth quarter of 2021. This happened as consumer demand rise. As a result, there is a possibility that purchasing power will rise and the unemployment rate will stabilize. Fiscal policy is one of economic policy that government should implement for every piece. The explanation is due to increased consumer spending power because of this policy, firms may expand and consumer may purchase more product. This is because overall spending is influenced by both government spending and tax rates. Aggregate expenditure will rise in response to rising government spending, but aggregate expenditure will fall in response to rising tax rate. The government must therefore employ this fiscal policy to boost and stabilize economic growth. If the government is too big and ineffective, it is preferable to have tax reductions when the economy is struggling. The suggestions to raise government expenditure during recessions if the government is too small and numerous social and infrastructure requirements are not being satisfied.
Next is question 3. For the question A is define a GDP. GDP is the total money value of all final goods and services produced within a country in the given period. Nominal GDP measures the economic production at current market prices, whereas real GDP measures the economic production factoring in any prices changes in the market, which is deflation or inflation. There are three different methods for calculating GDP, which are using product approach, expenditure approach, or income approach. For the question B1, based on the information in the above data, what is the approach can be used to measure GDP? And the answer is based on the information in the above data. What is the approach that can be used to measure GDP is product approach and expenditure approach. Question 2 is justify your answer. First is product approach. The product approach is also known as the output approach or the value added approach. According to the product approach, national income is calculated as the net worth of all final goods and services produced by a country each year. Second is the expenditure approach. By using this method, national income is obtained by adding all the expenditure on goods and services in a year. This methodology identifies the four economic sectors of personal consumption, investment, government spending, and net export as the sources of national income expenditure. For the question C is name and describe other approaches that can be used to calculate the GDP. GDP is gross domestic product and is an indicator to measure the economic health of a country. The formula for calculating GDP consists of three types, namely the income approach. The income approach is one of the calculation methods that can be used to obtain national income result. The way is to add up all the income received by the community and various service or production sectors during a certain period. For the question D is, based on data in table, calculate the following value for 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. For the answer is, in the table is the 5 years answer for gross domestic product at market price, which is the formula is C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Second is gross national product at market price. The formula is GDP plus net factor income. And third is gross national product at factor cost. The formula is GNP at market price minus indirect taxes plus subsidies. And the last is national income. The formula national income is GNP at factor cost minus depreciation. For the question E is, based on answer in D1, calculate and describe the GDP growth rate between 5 years. In 2017-2018, the GDP growth rate was 5.84%. In 2018-2019, the GDP growth rate decreased from 5.84% to 5.09%. In 2019-2020, the GDP growth rate decreased from 5.09% to negative 6.63% and experienced an increase in the establishment of GDP in 2021, which increased from negative 6.63% to 3.11%. For the question F is, do the figures given in the table represent nominal or real value of output? Why? And the answer is, based on the figures given in the table, we can state that is the real value of output because the national income data use constant base year prices, which is the year of 2015, to calculate the national income for late years. It is not value because nominal value use current prices of economy's production of goods and services. For the last question G is, discuss any three problems that may encounter when calculating the national income. There are many problems that may encounter when calculating the national incomes. Three main problems that usually encountered are, first is illegal income. Illegal income cannot be reported in national income. illegal form of economic activity and illegal activity won't be reported to the authority, such as drug trading, illegal gambling, prostitution, and illegal organs trading. Second is types of goods and services. Usually, there will be problem when each of the goods and services having their own money value. Most of the services which are performed in order of relationship and not for money have no money value. As an example, housewife cooks, cleans, pampers her child. And last is double counting. Problems of double counting always make excess in amount of national income. Usually, it implies when raw material of labor included in national income more than once. As an example, a co-owner sells, the milk company sells to the grocery shops, sell is to the consumer.
Assalamualaikum and good morning. I'm Anishafika binti Shamsuddin, Matric number A21A2405. I'm going to present the case study for question A, 1 Roman. To find the value of taxes based on table 2 and given the value of autonomous consumption, planned investment, government expenditure is 1,000 billion each. Is disposable income equal to national income minus taxes? Put the value for each in formula and the answer of taxes is 1,000 billion. Next question, 2 Roman. Find a consumption function and the formula is consumption equal to autonomous consumption plus B multiply with disposable income. Put on the value given to find B and the answer for B is 0.75. So the consumption function is C equal to 1,000 plus 0.75 multiply with YD. The last question for A is 3 Roman. Find the saving function. The formula is S equal to minus A plus with in bracket 1 minus B multiply with YD. Put the values and the answer is S equal to minus 1,000 plus 0.25 multiply with ID. Next, question B. Find the equilibrium of national income. Question in 1 Roman. In aggregate demand and aggregate supply, AD equal to AS approach. We have consumption function, the value of investment, government and taxes. So put into formula Y equal to C plus I plus G. In this formula, YD in consumption function has become to Y minus D. So to find Y, we put all the values given and calculate. The answer for Y is 9,000 billion. Next to Roman, which is in leakage and injection approach. This using the saving function, do the same step with aggregate demand and supply to get the answer for Y. So we got Y equal to 9,000 billion. Question C, 1 Roman. Based on the above statement, find new equilibrium of national income. First, find the new value of investment. We need to multiply 5% with 1,000 and the answer is 950 billion. And the value of S, which is export, is 1,050 billion. So put all the value in question 1 equal to C plus I plus G plus in bracket S minus M. Because of in statement do not have the value of import, so just put 0 and the answer is 13,000 as the new equilibrium of national income. The next question is, if the full employment is 5,800 billion, does Malaysia facing the economic problem? Based on the graph that has been created, yes, Malaysia will be facing the economic problem if the full employment is 5,800 billion. This is because Malaysia economy is currently producing goods and services at a rate that is higher than full employment equilibrium. The increase in demand pushes up prices and wages as producers increase production to meet the excess demand, so the producers are under pressure to go beyond their capacity. That results in a risk in price and creates an inflationary situation in the economy. As shown in the graph, point B is the full employment income and point E is the new equilibrium income. The E income level is higher than the price at point B due to excess demand and wage. The government should implement contractionary fiscal policy such as reduced government spending and higher taxes to bring an overheating economy back into a full employment equilibrium level.
My name is Nurul Izzati binti Rosti and my matric number is A21A3000. I will present case study 5, chapter 4. For question A, to calculate the national income in the second quarter of 2021, we need to find personal consumption expenditure plus gross private domestic investment plus government purchase plus net export, which I got the answer equal to RM 6,208.33 billion. Question 2 asks to compare national income in 2020 and the first quarter of 2021 with Malaysian economic condition in the second quarter of 2021. Malaysia economy in the second quarter of 2021 is an expansion phase, which is it takes place after the collapse of the economy. The GDP will increase. For question C1, does Malaysia face an economic problem if the income is at full employment? Of course not, because activity economy is increasing, that the country output is increasing. This is the graph using the ADAS approach for question C2. At point A, the economy is recession with real GDP of RM 5,365.1 billion and a price level of P1. AD will change from AD1 to AD2 as a result of an expansionary fiscal policy, and real GDP will rise to 7,000 billion ringgit Malaysia. For question C3, government need to reduce the tax, which will increase the disposable income and tax profit of the firm. Household expenditure rise and firm investment also increase. The aggregate expenditure will rise and employment opportunities also rise. This will affect to boost economic growth.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Shazwandi binti Kadri. My metric number is A21A2902, and I will continue for the next case study. Case study 5, Chapter 6, Money Demand and Interest Rate Equilibrium. From diagram, we can see when BNM holds the money supply constant, it can cause the interest rate fall. As interest rate falls, firms and consumers will attempt to reduce their cash holdings. At lower interest rate, which is R1, there is an excess of money demand where people will sell bonds. Bond price are down and interest rates are rising. If BNM wants to raise interest rates, BNM will have to reduce money supply. Based on the diagram, the money supply curve MS will switch from MS0 to MS1. Therefore, at the rate at interest R0, the excess demand for money cause the public to sell bonds. As a result, bond prices are down and interest rates are rising. Based on the diagram, at interest rate R0, the investment is as much as I0. Increased interest rates from R0 to R1 lead to a decrease in investment from I0 to I1. In conclusion, interest rates will increase as money supply declines and investment declines. National income decrease several times, so aggregate demand decrease and general price levels decline. Next, if BNM want to lower interest rate, and BNM will have to increase money supply. Based on the diagram, the money supply curve MS will switch from MS0 to MS1. Therefore, at the rate of interest R0, the excess supply for money cause the public to buy bond. As a result, bond prices are increased and interest rates are down. Lastly, based on the diagram, at interest rate R0, the investment is much as I0. Decrease interest rate from R0 to R1 lead to an increase to investment from I0 to I1. In conclusion, interest rates will decline as money supply increase and investment increase. So, national income doubles and aggregate demands increase, so general price level rise. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum to Madam and all my friends. I'm your Amizah Akila binti Yaakob with metric number A21A2789. I will present about the case study 6. From the picture, the inflation situation in February and March 2021 rose to 1.7% in March, from on February 0.1%. For the second question, a type of fiscal to overcome inflation is contractionary fiscal policy. It increasing taxes and reducing government expenditure, while the monetary policy is contractionary money policy. It drew on the higher interest rates. Next question on this ADAS curve. Y0 is real GDP and P0 is price level. Because the Y0 is bigger than Y1, wages and prices will rise in the economy. Aggregate demand will move from AD0 to AD1. If fiscal policy is tightened, real GDP decrease from Y0 to Y1, whereas the price level will decrease from P0 to P1. Next question. Calculate the inflation rate. We use familiar CPI current year minus CPI previous year, divide by CPI previous year times to 100. On February 2019, 120.8 minus 120.5 divide by 120.5 times to 100. The answer is 0.25%, and use the same formula to calculate the others. The second question, the economic policy that can be used is fiscal policy. The use of fiscal policy contrasts the economy by decreasing aggregate demand, which will lead to lower output, higher unemployment, and a lower price level. That's all from me. Thank you.
During the expenses phase, economists consider a GDP growth rate range of between 2% to 3%. Unemployment reached a natural rate of 3.5% to 4.5%, and inflation, the measurement of the change in price over around 2%, are considered as healthy by economists and officials. Usually, an economy can remain in the expenses phase for years if the stock market experiences rising price and investors are confident. The second phase of the cycle is the peak. It occurs when all expansionary indicators begin to level off. The economy might take weeks or a year to transition into the contraction phase. The GDP growth rate fall below 2% and continue to decline. The peak is displayed on a graph as the highest portions on the curve before moving downward. Uh, the third phase is the construction phase. It begins after the economy peaks and ends when GDP and other indicators cease to decrease. In this stage, the economy does not experience growth. Instead, it shrinks. When the GDP rate turns negative, the economy enters a recession. Businesses lay off employees, the employment rate rise above normal level, and price begin to decline. Generally, a contraction is portrayed on a graph as the part of the curve that is consistently decreasing. The fourth phase of the business cycle is the trough. The decreasing GDP begins to decline its rate of negative change, eventually turning positive again. The economy begins transitions from the construction phase to the expansion phase. On a graph, the lowest point of the curve is called a trough. When the GDP starts to rise, the business cycle begins again, and the curve continues to go upward.
And last is question 7. The question is based on the article. For question A is by using business cycle diagrams illustrate the pace of the Malaysia economic situation. And the answer is this is the business cycles diagrams. They have 4 items, which is expansion, peak, contraction, and last is truth.
I'm going to continue the question C in case study 7. For question in 1 Roman, state 1 economic policy that government should implement The answer is contractionary fiscal policy. Truman, briefly explain the role of suggested economic policy. The answer is when inflation is high, the best fiscal strategy is to have a budget surplus to lower aggregate expenditure. Increase taxes and reduce government expenditure are the instruments employed in contractionary fiscal policy.